that researchers at universities develop, professional engineers in industry develop, and there's a special place at the Flight Opportunities Heart for these student payloads that are developed from 6th to 12th grade students. I know you've seen many of them that have been completed and built, and they're impressive. They're impressive.
I marvel at how sophisticated these payloads are. I think back to when I was that age, and I'm blown away, because I would have never thought. I would never come up with these good ideas. And we acknowledge how much work that is. I mean, you're trying to put together teams, you're trying to come up with ideas, you're doing your research to find out, well, is this a good idea? And how do I accomplish that within this really, I don't have a lot of mass, I don't have a lot of space, I don't have a lot of dollars, so it's like, how do I, it's the exact same problems that, like I said, every researcher comes across, every technology developer comes across, so it's impeccable training.
Amazing, and it all starts with that idea, and so many of you here today submitted a proposal, and we thank you. And Greg, I just want to thank you for joining here today to give this initial welcome. I know you're going to be coming back in a little bit when we do that final winners announcement. But at this point, we're going to actually transition to another NASA speaker who you know very well, Greg. An Nguyen is going to join us. So thanks, Greg. I'll see you in a little bit. So Greg kind of teed up what Flight Opportunities Program does, this exciting opportunity. And our next speaker is going to be talking a little bit more about high-altitude balloon research specifically. So I think you all know that for the NASA TeachRise flight, these experiments are going to go up to 70,000 feet, or maybe a little above, and they're going to be floating up there for 4 to 6 hours and collecting a lot of data. And if there's someone that has experience building in the field, being the amazing engineer that she is, collecting data, and that is An Nguyen. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit more about An. Thanks for joining An. And we're going to actually turn it over to An, and she's going to give you a little presentation about high-altitude research. So An Nguyen is currently the Program Portfolio Integrator for NASA's Small Spacecraft Technology and Flight Opportunities Program and Technical Lead for the NASA TeachRise Student Challenge, which means I get the honor to work with her a lot. And An has worked on a variety of CubeSat and suborbital flight tests during her career at NASA over the past 8 years. She has a PhD in aerospace engineering from the University of Florida's Precision Space Systems Laboratory, with a focus on dynamic systems and controls, and is passionate about rapidly demonstrating new space technologies. So welcome, 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 An. I am going to go off video and just give you the stage here so that you can tell students a lot more about suborbital research.
Thanks,
Ian. Hi, so before I was a technical lead for Flight Opportunities TeachRise Challenge, I was actually a researcher myself. So everything that you're doing, I've done it and gone through the paces, all the hardships, the ups and the downs, and the success and lessons learned. So I actually wanted to share with you my experience as a researcher on the Flight Opportunity side, and actually, how I got into a lot of the different Flight Opportunities flights and research as well. What I was originally working on were actually CubeSats. These are very, very small satellites. These ones shown in the photos are 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, so about this size, size of like a coffee mug. And basically our idea and test was to launch through them and see if we could do some swarm networking so that they can talk to each other, so they can figure out how far they are from each other. And this is really useful for space situational awareness, so that, if we want to eventually start sending lots of things to the moon or Mars, that we want to be able to miniaturize as much as possible all of the technologies we send there, because sending stuff far away is very hard, very expensive as well. It takes a lot of rocket fuel to get there. And so that we wanted to be able to also understand, where all of our assets were in and around these other places that don't have GPS. And so we wanted to launch this around the Earth to test it out before we continue the technology development for those other destinations. This is kind of a summary of what we were trying to work on. And to note that these are basically half the size of the boxes that you guys are going to be getting to use. So we really wanted to test ranging and do lots of radio testing, trying to transfer large amounts of data so that we can relay and hop information around. We wanted to coordinate some radiation measurements around the Earth, and then do a lot of like post-processing to figure out, were we exactly where we thought we were, or did we need to, change some parts out here and there. So like everything, we started off as a small piece of paper. It was literally just scribbling on a giant notepad of what we wanted to do. We built some models and some CAD models, so computer-aided design models, and then we built them. We built all three, tested it, and we actually launched it. And as with everything, there were some successes, and then there were some things that didn't quite work as well as we expected to. One of the things that we really wanted to understand was that we were able to do the ranging to figure out where we were from one spacecraft to another, but only up to a certain distance. All of our calculations said that we should be able to measure distances over 100 kilometers, but in reality, what we measured were only up to maybe 30 kilometers. So it was kind of a third of what we wanted. We really didn't know what happened. The spacecraft more or less burnt up in the atmosphere after the mission lifetime. It was really hard to figure out what was going on. So that's how I got introduced to flight opportunities. We actually were able to work with flight opportunities on a high altitude balloon to try to figure out what happened. So the idea of the demonstration was to put one of the representative spacecraft on a high altitude balloon and let it float along, and we will have 4 different ground stations to do that ranging technique. We tested it. We tested this thing before we launched it in a whole bunch of anechoic chambers and did some field testing, but there's nothing that can really test those really long link distances and those ranges for us on the ground, other than these high altitude balloons, and other than going to orbit. But when you go to orbit, you don't get your payload back, you don't get your data, you don't get the hardware back to really figure out what happened. So this was a really great alternative. We built everything. You can see it was definitely a low-cost mission. You can see, Tupperware boxes being used to protect our hardware, and a lot of this stuff was leftover stuff from the build and test of our actual flight hardware. We did a lot of drop and bracket testing. The balloon provider said that, we could experience up to 6 Gs in every direction, and we actually weren't sure if we would be able to survive that. So we did very, low-cost testing, put accelerometers on this unit, and just kind of threw it off the second story to see, whether the bracket would survive and whether the actual hardware would survive. We did some field testing, again, test as much as we can, do mission operations, rehearsals. So we gathered everyone around, got all the units in its most flight-like configuration, and walked around the fields at NASA Ames in California to figure out, what were the things that we need to do, how did we need to, orient everyone and communicate with each other. And then it came to flight day. Here we are at the flight test provider. We basically shipped everything to the flight test provider and did our assembly and checkout. Since we had 4 ground units, we had a little assembly line going when we built it. Lots and lots of testing. Again, you can see, there's some last minute additions where it was in February, so it was very cold where we were doing the testing in South Dakota. And so we actually got a little concerned about the hardware and how cold it was going to be, and maybe some of the damage that it might receive when landing. So we went out to Walmart and bought a very low-cost styrofoam cooler, turned it upside down, and put our payload in there. We did some indoor electromagnetic interference and compatibility testing, so just really making sure that everything worked in the location that we were at. So we did it indoors one day, we did it outdoors the next day, make sure that everything, after we built it, everything worked, especially after adding the brand new foam on there. And it did snow one of the days, so it wasn't good for flight testing. So we spent that day to work on our operations plan, figuring out where folks would be sitting at or driving to, depending on the flight path. And then it came to launch day. As you can see, this is actually during, just after COVID. So we all had our face masks on, and it was in February, so it was very, very cold. So everything was frosty, very, very cold and frosty that morning. You can see our payload, the flight control unit, and the balloon inflating. We also had apps on our phone, which we called Cedric Express, because one of our engineers was Cedric, and he just put everything together within a week. And we could track where the balloon was, and we can also track where each other were. So it was a really, really great day and a really successful flight test. We tracked it all the way across Idaho, and we actually landed. We were expecting to land in a cornfield, but we happened to land in someone's tree. So the flight test provider contacted the property owner, and we were able to recover our payload, which was really great because it actually never touched the ground. So our payload was fully intact, and all of the mitigation that we had used for the styrofoam cooler, we didn't need it. So yeah, you can see the analysis tracking summary. Basically, you can see we started off at Sioux Falls and basically made our way all the way over to the other side of and Minnesota. So we had lots and lots of range values. So we got basically up to 350 kilometers, which is actually way better than we expected, because what we saw on flight was that it actually, what we saw was only 30 kilometers. So we saw it working between flight, and then there are little breaks because the folks in our car, or the folks in the cars basically had to pack everything up and then drive another 30 minutes to 1 hour to catch up with the balloon. So basically they got in their cars, got out, tracked the balloon, got back in their cars, and so they had to turn everything off during these times. But we had a great float altitude, so a couple hours at float, and we were able to basically track ranges all the way close to 400 kilometers. But we saw almost that was one radio, but a different radio, the radio that we had in question, actually we saw something very, very similar to what we saw in orbit. It happened the same exact way, and after doing a ton and months of data analysis, we found out that there was effectively a timeout in the middle in the firmware. It's something that we really didn't expect, but we were able to confirm it when we saw kind of zeros coming back and backing everything out. We saw that there was actually a timeout in the middle. So what did we do? We think we knew what we were going to do to fix it, but we also still needed to test it. And so we applied the firmware update, and we did additional testing from one range to basically the hills in California to really double check what we were able to think what happened, what we saw happened, and fix it. So it was really, really successful, and we were really able to, hammer out all of the issues there. We had lots and lots of data sets. Data analysis takes a long time. You're gonna have so much data coming back, especially from 4 different units, and trying to correlate everything. It was a lot of work, but we were very, very glad that we had the opportunity with flight opportunities to do the balloon test, figure out what went wrong, and also continue to test afterwards to make the fix. And so, what happens next? So actually, because of doing all of this work and really figuring out what happened, we were able to continue doing follow-on testing with actual flight units. So you can see here, instead of 3, we made 4. And then instead of 3 units, we were actually able to upgrade the whole swarm and put 4 units out. So these are actually 1.5 units, which is basically, your payloads will be 200 centimeters high. These ones are 15 centimeters high, so 1.5 units. And this launched as another follow-on mission from the original mission. It launched last year and was super successful. We got to demonstrate everything that we wanted to and more. And that really, really kind of solidified our motto for fly, fix, fly. You can't expect to get everything right the first time. Especially for these low-cost missions, you can test it on the ground to your best of knowledge, the best of your abilities, given your resources. And so this was really, really successful and a really great opportunity of how we apply flight opportunities, especially high-altitude balloon tests, to real-world investigations and flight projects. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for your time.
Amazing, amazing. So I love on how that illustrates the role of flight opportunities, right? You're trying to send something into space, and you're like, oh, I got something I need to figure out. And it's the value of flight opportunities is that you can test it a little bit closer here to Earth, saves time, saves money, and then you guys can send it back up, successfully complete your mission, right? And I love that motto, fly, fix, fly. I know that's kind of like the ethos of NASA's Flight Opportunities Program. But a lot of times I say with TeachRise, it's kind of learn, fix, learn. Because you guys go through the iterative design process, right, to make successful payloads that get launched to space. But for these students, their end destination is going up to 70,000 feet, collecting that data. But there is so much iteration that has to go along the way. And it's really kind of the first step as a 6th to 12th grader of learning that iterative design process that you talked about so much. So I guess my first question, well, I want to first tee up to the audience that we are going to now have about a Q&A, like 10-minute Q&A session. So whatever burning questions you have to ask on from NASA, about anything really, go ahead and submit those, and we're going to be taking them here on the stage. But what I wanted to ask about, because we just heard about the PhD level research, and these students might be thinking, oh my gosh, how do I even get there? Can you just talk a little bit about that process of iteration? I know the students probably iterated a lot just to get their proposals in, and those that are selected and go on this journey are going to have to iterate quite a bit. Talk to us about the process of failure a little bit.
Yeah, so actually, to even just propose a project, the same exact thing that you guys are doing to propose your idea, your experiment, is something that NASA and other NASA researchers do all the time. It is a very competitive process. Even for me trying to fly this mission, I had to do so much research. I had to do a lot of background engineering. Will it fit? Is it too heavy? Do all the components work together well? What's available? Does everything kind of make sense within the budget and the schedule that we have? And does it meet the technology requirements and priorities that NASA has? And so, basically starting from there, this is not I proposed it and I want it immediately. Before this project, I definitely had lots of, basically declined proposals. And so this is actually one of them that won, but before this, there were very, very many. So just to start off with that, the proposal process. And then as far as, NASA researchers go, we have lots of milestone reviews along the way. We have our NASA stakeholders, the people that are in charge, the scientists, the technologists. They really want to see that we've done all of our homework and that basically we have enough power, we've designed everything correctly, our mission operations, even our software, all will work together and give them confidence that we are doing it appropriately. And so there's actually lots of milestone reviews along the process. You have your preliminary design review, and then you have your critical design review, and then your integration readiness review. We have all these different reviews to make sure that we're ready along the way. It is common that some folks actually do a lot of the work and they realize it actually can't be done. There's the learning process there. And then the iteration of saying, okay, well, we were originally sizing, this like small spacecraft, but maybe we actually need a little bit more space. And so there's lots of rescoping that needs to be done, and I'm sure that you guys are all going to be able to experience that firsthand of thinking, maybe your original experiment, the way that you intended to do it, might not quite work the way that you expected it to. And that's the whole part of doing this and learning is, learning what you can and making informed decisions as you go on. And then, we have built and tested many things and broke lots of things. I'm sure you guys are going to end up, breaking a few things here and there. But that's part of the learning process. We mitigate for all the risks. You buy spares, and then try to have the best handling techniques and practices, in which you guys will all learn. You get to flight. And sometimes there's some last minute things that you need to fix on the flight pad. And then, you fly it and you try the best that you can. And we hope that you have good results. And clearly, as you saw for us, we had some successes and some failures. And really, it's never a missed opportunity if you learn something. So even if your hardware may fail, as long as you learn it, or you learn what happened, you have lots of lessons learned so that you can bring that into your next future projects. And it may not even directly be related, but it's more of the, the experiences that you have and how you can, the techniques and the thought process that you have in basically mitigating it and moving on. Try it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And we have a lot of questions coming in here. And one of the questions was, what would happen if our sensors stopped working in mid-flight? Would NASA consider that a success or a failure? And I think An really just answered that, which is, for TeachRise, it's a big deal just to even get the payload mailed into us and in our hands, and that is a huge success. It's a big deal for it to go up to 70,000 feet and collect data. And even if the sensors stop working mid-flight, I think it's still a success, but there's obviously a learning point there of why did it go wrong, and we hope that the journey doesn't end there, that once you get that data back, that you look at it and you analyze that a little bit more. So I don't know if NASA, you want to assure them that it's still a success in NASA's mind if you're learning in this process with TeachRise.
So for a lot of us, and early on the days when rockets and things were brand new and blowing up a little bit more often, is that we actually say that your first success is making it onto the launch pad. And so for you guys, basically, everything that you're doing, basically going from potentially little or no experience at all to coding, soldering, mechanically assembling, like everything. It takes, the projects that I showed you, it took us years to develop, do all the reviews, build it, and test and fly it. Like, what we showed you was very minimum of 18 months from concept to flight, and that's fast. And so you guys are getting, very, very small amount of money compared to what we get for, NASA, as well as literally less than 6 months, 4 months, right? And so the fact that you're able to just put something together and get it onto Launchpad, and you've probably learned so much along the way, I would call that a success in itself. Not as good as just the cherry on top.
Exactly. And we have a question here about how to do research a little bit more. So the flight profile for NASA TeachRise goes up to 70,000, to 100,000 feet. There's a question here I'm going to put you on the spot on. If you don't know this, you can pass. But do you know what's the highest altitude that NASA does research on high altitude balloons? Do you know how high up?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, well, it really depends on the size and mass. So if you're sending something really heavy, it's going to be hard to lift it, more than 125 kilometers, right? But if you have something very, very small, you could probably get it much, much higher. I would say maybe 150 kilometers. So basically double to kind of where you guys are going to be having your balloons. It really just depends on what you need. At some point, how long does it need to stay up there? What are you really trying to test? What does the environment look like? So where you guys are going is going to be kind of like the sweet spot. If you're going to have cameras, you're going to be able to look down and still see something and have a good view. But you also, you're still going to be sensing lots of things. There's also unique things happening in the 75,000 to 100,000 feet range, where you're going to have lots of ozone and interesting things happening with particles and radiation. That I think that you guys are the sweet spot. But there are flights that go much higher.
Yeah, and I think it's intentionally a good sweet spot. You get to go through the troposphere, which is where all that weather is, right? You get to pass through that, and then you get up to the stratosphere, and it's much drier up there, but to John's point, there's so much. You're right in the smack of the ozone layer, there's so much to see. And historically, the balloon flights that we've done have had some pretty epic views as well. And there's a question here about conditions for flights. I'd love for you to chat a little bit about that on flight day. So the students that do get selected to build their payloads, they will mail the payloads in to future engineers, and we have our technical team of mentors as well as that will be there on site to integrate these, launch these, but there's a lot of decisions that happen in that morning to make sure that that flight is ready. So can you just chat a little bit about that morning and what makes a go, no-go, kind of weather-wise?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have we have weather forecasts leading up to the week of flight, but really we don't know if it's a go, no-go until the day of, and lots of times, and you may experience this for your flight, but we might have a couple extra minutes of weather hold if the winds on the surface are too high, or the winds actually higher up are a little too high. We actually won't launch the balloon, and we'll just hold the balloon in place until the weather conditions are good. And these flights will happen out of the desert where it's nice and dry, but also happen early in the morning. So that we can get kind of the best calm weather, so that the balloon doesn't float too far away and end up going over cities and populated areas and kind of defer the landing. But it is quite the morning. We start off with a big cup of coffee very, very, very early. Head out to the flight, set everything up, and we head out there early, but the flight providers are there even earlier than us. Set up everything in the dark, and then as soon as the sun rises, which is beautiful over the pager in the desert, we've had beautiful and wonderful flights go off, and we've also had to scrub some flights and come back the next day because some of those flights, the weather conditions didn't apply. So it's very exciting, and also when it finally does launch, it is really, really exciting, and getting your payloads back is probably the most exciting part as well.
Definitely. And I'm going to take one more question. I'm going to kind of summarize a couple of these questions. So someone was asking how much money to get if we win. So just as a refresher, however we put in these proposals, 60 teams are going to be selected and announced today. And those teams will get $1,500 as well as an assigned spot on a world view high altitude balloon flight. And mentorship every step of the way from our team of NASA TeachRise mentors who are going to teach you everything you need to know to go from that idea on paper to building a payload that then gets mailed in. And that all happens over the course of about 4 months. As Aude mentioned, it's pretty an amazing feat to be a 6th to 12th grader and to be doing that. And I'm going to tie it into our last question, which is a bit about how do I become an intern at NASA? But I'm going to bring that down a little bit, and I want to talk about these students. A lot of them are going to solder for the first time. They're going to use, they're going to mechanically mount something for the first time, use tools for the first time, learn what a microcontroller is, learn about code. So give me a little glimpse of you when you were younger, learning to do some of these things for the first time, and I think also tell these students about how this is the beginning of a journey, and maybe one day they can intern at NASA.
Yeah. When I was younger, my dad was an electrical engineer, and so for fun, he would teach me and my brother of how to, solder and code things, very rudimentary. But actually, you guys are going to get a full kit as well that comes with all these fun, little microcontrollers and the basic hardware, an electronics kit. And basically, that same kit is something similarly to what I had as a freshman year in college in my basic microelectronics class. So, you guys receiving these as, 6th to 12th graders is actually, you're basically ahead of the time. Head of the game.
I'm a mechanic, but same time frame. They get to that's great. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, me too. I wish TeachRise was kind of available when I was in 6th and 12th grade. But yeah, honestly, I think that although things are hard, you persevere. Everything did not come easy to me. Going through my microelectronics class and even learning from my dad, it was very, very hard. And so persevering, trying to take what you can and learn from it and continue on. It's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be a rocket scientist, right? I would say do well in school. If you want to be a NASA intern, you have to have a GPA of 3.0 or higher. We have had many people who barely made the cusp of GPA of 2.99, and we still had to deny their internship because they just didn't meet the rules and regulations. So do well in school as best as you can, especially once you go into college. Persevere, join clubs, find other people with your same interests. And if you don't, we've had many people start their own clubs of just saying, we didn't have an aerospace club at our school, and so we started it ourselves. And, we've seen some of them actually start it after TeachRise, right? They get all the basic tools and learning from TeachRise, and they start their own space clubs and doing something very similar and running their own programs afterwards, right?
Definitely, and I think I think persevering is a really great segue for us talking about this next phase. Obviously, I'm going to bring in Greg, who's going to come on, and we're going to move into this winners announcement very soon. But to your point, I mean, just submitting the proposal, we're in the 4th year of TeachRise, and we have some teams that submitted the first year, didn't win, submitted the second year, didn't win, and then won that 3rd year. So there's perseverance just in keep putting yourself out there, keep going through this process, keep submitting proposals. Obviously, those teams that are selected today and announced, there's going to be so much perseverance needed to go through the process of building. But then even from there, there's so many opportunities. I feel like TeachRise is just this beautiful program where it's really just this boost for 6th to 12th graders to learn about some of these really unique environments to design for, and to really start your journey. If you have ambitions and dreams of working for NASA one day, TeachRise is a great way to start. So Greg, thanks so much for coming back. I thought it was apropos because you worked on, I didn't get to say thank you, but I was going to just say thank you so much, for coming and speaking to all of our students here today. I know those that are selected are going to get to know you a little bit better with some of our NASA meet and greets. But thank you so much for sharing here today. And yes, we're going to segue now to Greg and bringing him back on to move into this winner's announcement. So thanks. Greg, I thought perseverance was an appropriate word because I know you've done so much research with Mars and to bring it back in, and I know it's something that's really fitting for the students here today. So as mentioned, there were over 720 proposals, and I know we wish that all of those could get the opportunity to build a payload and to take flight. But today we're going to be announcing 60 winners. How do you feel, Greg? It's almost done.
There were a lot of really good proposals. And I just put it really well. Perseverance really is, I think, the key word here. And and I both coming from a researcher background. I looked back at one point, and so my win rate over my career is about 10%. So that means that for every 10 proposals that I wrote, I won one. So that's it's actually considered a pretty decent win rate. So you do have to persevere. You have to just take whatever things that maybe seem disappointing, and just you turn that around and you just turn that into fuel to persevere, I guess is a really great way to put it.
Great. So those of you that do not win today, the journey is not over here. We just want to say thank you to everyone that submitted a proposal. Thank you for sharing your creativity, your innovation, your ideas with NASA. Thank you to the judges. We had over 200 volunteer judges that went through these proposals, read every single one to come up with these determinations. And I think the moment is now. Are you guys ready? Please, it is time to announce the TeachRise winners. Here we go. Let's play the video.
Congratulations, NASA TeachRise winners. My name is Ryan Hartman. I'm the president and CEO here at Worldview. I want to thank all of the NASA TeachRise participants for sharing their creative ideas. I especially want to congratulate the challenge winners whose projects will be flying on an upcoming Worldview stratospheric balloon mission. At Worldview, we exist to inspire, create, and explore new perspectives for a radically improved future. You inspire us all with your dedication to making the world a better place through scientific exploration and discovery. It's through efforts like yours and other curious student scientists and engineers that together we will create a better future for generations to come. Here's a brief glimpse of a Worldview flight like the one which your experiments will fly. We know that taking on the challenge to innovate and explore is never easy. It takes hard work and courage to share your ideas, and we applaud everyone who submitted a NASA TeachRise proposal. From all of us here at Worldview, thank you for participating. We cannot wait to see the final experiments fly.
Over 1,000?
Only 60.
60.
There are 720. She said 720 in all, and only 60 of you got chosen.
720?
Yeah, over 720.
There you have it.
And there are like 200.
I know there's a lot of emotions running right now. If you were not announced, I just want to also say thank you so much for this year, and you persevere and keep going. To those that were announced, congratulations. You are the official cohort of the NASA TeachRise 4 winners. And what is next is going to be quite the journey. As mentioned, your team is going to get $1,500 to develop that experiment for all the supplies. Very soon, you will be getting, oh, it's blurry, can you see it? You will be getting a prize box in the mail from NASA. It is your official TeachRise prize box, and inside is going to be your payload. There's going to be a series of introductory modules where you're going to learn the basics of building a payload. You're going to be introduced to your mentors. We have 3 mentors this year. We have Claire, we have Ani, and we have Shiji. And you will be introduced to your official mentor and get that scheduling going and start this process of taking that idea from the paper and turning it into a reality. And over the course of this journey, you're going to build an official NASA TeachRise payload. You're going to mail it in May, and that experiment is going to take flight on a Worldview high-altitude balloon flight this summer 2025. So congratulations again to everyone that was announced. It's really exciting. If you looked at the geographic representation of these teams, it's so exciting to see the students from all across the country that are going to be participating in this process. So congratulations again to everyone who participated. Thank you to everyone that participated. Thank you for our judges. We could not do this without you. It's quite a feat to review these exceptionally high-quality proposals. And at this point, I'm going to be bringing on our last NASA guest speaker, and I'm going to pull up her bio here. You've got a special VIP to close it out here today with this exciting program. We're going to be bringing on stage here Danielle McCulloch. She's the program executive for NASA's Flight Opportunities Program. Danielle McCulloch is the program executive for NASA's Flight Opportunities Program within the agency's Space Technology Mission Directorate. In this role, she provides strategic integration between researchers, mission stakeholders, and flight providers, as well as other NASA programs, to maximize impact for technology advancement and ensure that the researcher community is actively engaged in available flight test opportunities, just like this one with TeachRise. She comes to the position after serving as both the program manager and deputy program manager for flight opportunities. And before joining NASA, Danielle had held various leadership roles in medical device and paper manufacturing industries, and was vice president for a small technology transfer consultancy. Her experience underlines her passion for innovation, entrepreneurship, and fostering researcher and inventor diversity. So Danielle, welcome to the stage. Another great, exciting cohort of TeachRise winners we've just announced. I know you've been here since the beginning. Fun fact, Danielle and I were a part of piloting the first ever NASA TeachRise Student Challenge, and we've seen it grow by leaps and bounds. I'm really excited for you to be here today and give some final remarks for our students.
Yeah, Deanne, thanks so much for letting me join in this. This is one of the favorite things that I do at NASA. It is such a special program, and as you've heard about in the other speakers today, what you are doing is exactly what our professional researchers do. You are taking the chance to propose an idea and see if you can actually turn it into a project. And so for those of you who have been selected as winners, congratulations. We are so excited to have you start this journey with us. There will be really, really exciting moments, but there are going to be some big challenges ahead, and that really reflects the experience of other, like I said, the professional researchers that are doing this as well. So persevere, get to know your teammates, help each other, and we look forward to supporting you on this adventure. For those of you that weren't selected today, as Deanne said, there probably are a lot of emotions, but you heard from An, you heard from Greg. Perseverance is really the key to all of this. Just keep working at it. You'll learn along the way. There's so many different opportunities for you to participate in space and engineering and science. So just consider this one of the many experiences along your adventure. And we really are so excited for all of you to be part of our community, and really excited to see those of you selected as winners take your experiments to space.
Great, thank you, thank you. I know this journey that the students who were selected are about to go on and build, it's going to be very humbling. There are going to be times where you struggle, and I know we both even, we're dabbling with building a payload in these early years of TeachRise. So I guess just give some parting words for those students that are about to go on this journey of building. There's going to be these ups and these downs, but it's all going to culminate with that big flight this summer. So why don't you tell us a little bit, why don't you give a little advice for these students that are about to go into this experiment build?
Yeah, so I think just remember that you're all learning together. This is new. It is difficult. I know that trying to take everything that you want to do and squeeze it into this little box and learn how to do new skills. Before I started doing TeachRise, I didn't know how to solder. I didn't know how to do coding of microcontrollers. I had experience in computer programming. I'm a chemical engineer, but I hadn't done a lot of electronics. And it can be humbling and frustrating, but it's so much fun to actually accomplish learning those new skills, to work together with your teammates to help each other to achieve that. So have confidence that you can make it, enjoy the adventure. You might get frustrated along the way, but then make each other laugh and realize that there's a really cool outcome at the end, and you will have failure along the way. That's just part of this. Like, taking risks is part of it, and not all of our experiments work the first time we put them up there, so things might not go as you hoped, but the experience is really what you're getting out of this. So keep that in mind as you're going through all of this.
And so much of this journey is that process of taking an idea and making it a reality. And the first phase of any scientific or engineering journey is coming up with that idea. And then this next phase is turning that idea into reality. And there's going to be so much to be learned there. But I don't want to devalue that first phase, which is coming up with that idea. And so I know over 720 proposals were submitted. So many creative ideas were shared. Keep those ideas going. Those ideas are going to keep getting bigger and better and maybe more complex, but then maybe more simple. And those ideas are going to evolve.
And keep being brave. That's part of this, is that you have to have enough confidence and bravery to just keep proposing, participate in different things. Even if you don't win, you gain so much from that process. So again, congratulations to all of the teams that put in the effort to put together this application and go through that whole process of brainstorming and refining their idea and being brave enough to share it with somebody else.
Great. Well, I think this concludes our show. I'm going to give a few thank yous and remarks, and then I'll let you, Danielle, give the final thank yous. So thank you to everyone who joined us here today. Thank you for participating in this wonderful program. Thank you to NASA's Flight Opportunities Program for having the vision and the commitment to fostering this wonderful STEM education initiative for 6th to 12th grade students. And thank you to our speakers, Greg, An, and Danielle, for coming here today. And we're just really excited for this next phase of the journey to begin. So thank you everyone for attending, and I will pass it to you, Danielle, for our final thank yous.
Yes, so I just want to thank everybody as well. So the students for all the work that you put in, but also the educators, the school communities, the families, everybody that supported these teams along the way. Thanks to all of you in advance for all the support that you'll give to the teams as well. And we really are excited to see what all of you, the teams that won as well as all of you that participated here, is seeing what you do to help advance the technology community and really help us explore wonderful things in space. There's so many things left to be discovered. We need all sorts of different roles and people. So thank you for starting your journey to be part of this, and we look forward to seeing everything that you do along the way. Best of luck to you.
Bye. That concludes our show. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.